Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to get started this Friday morning in France, where President Biden will again pay tribute to troops who served during World War II and will use the occasion to draw stark contrasts between himself and his political rival, former President Donald Trump.
The president is starting his day in Paris before heading to the coast of Normandy. He's expected to give a wide-ranging speech on America's ties to European allies, the war in Ukraine, and threats against democracy. We're going to bring you those remarks live, which are slated to begin just after 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Yesterday, President Biden was part of a poignant ceremony with world leaders to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day. In his speech, Mr. Biden touched on the importance of protecting democracy.
History tells us freedom is not free. If you want to know the price of freedom, come here to Normandy. Come to Normandy and look. Go to the other cemeteries in Europe where our fallen heroes rest. Go back home to Arlington Cemetery.
NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell is traveling with the president and joins us from Paris. Kelly, good morning. So President Biden started his day there where you are meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. What should we know about their meeting?
It is ongoing right now, Joe, with the president, the Secretary of State, the Defense Secretary, other top leaders in what we are told is going to be a substantial meeting talking about a new aid package from the United States to Ukraine. President Zelensky has his own agenda for that meeting. He outlined it before reporters who were in the room for a brief part of the meeting, talking about his thanks for the U.S. support, the Ukrainian commitment to stay in the fight against Russia, and some of his hopes for future events and future support. This latest package will be $225 million. The president also acknowledged that there had been kind of a slow process in keeping that aid going to Ukraine, citing the conservative members of Congress who were resistant to that. So this is a very contemporary, in-the-moment example of the larger themes of this trip. In the president and others who have been here for the D-Day commemorations talking about the need to preserve democracy, concerns about threats to that around the world, and certainly Ukraine for more than 2 years now has been experiencing that aggression from Russia and the unrelenting assault from Russia to Ukraine, and they need support, as they say, and Europe has been a partner, and so has the United States. So this is another demonstration of that. We know that back in the United States, there has been some weariness about support for that war, but the president is saying that he will stay with Ukraine, and that support will keep coming. Joe?
Kelly, let's talk about the president's speech coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Normandy coast. What do we expect to hear from him today?
This is using the location to really highlight what American Rangers, Army Rangers, did 80 years ago, where they were able to scale the cliffs and disable artillery that the Nazis had at the time, and the extraordinary heroism of that, using that particularly uniquely American experience here in France and as a part of the larger D-Day story to highlight the bravery of the Americans 80 years ago, and also to talk about the current threats as President Biden sees them to democracy, whether it's Ukraine, whether it is concerns about what's happening in Israel, and also some of the domestic issues that have been playing out. It's not a political speech. It's not a campaign speech, to be sure. Being overseas, the president typically speaks in larger themes, but it will be easy to see a connection to the election conversation that's happening back in the United States, with the president really emphasizing why alliances like NATO, like the partnerships with other free nations, are important and need to be preserved. That's part of what we expect today.
All right, Kelly
Joe,
O'Donnell
Savannah?
reporting from Paris. Kelly, thank you so much.
Well, now let's get to Delaware, where federal prosecutors are expected to rest their case today in the Hunter Biden trial. 2 more witnesses are set to be called to the stand in that criminal gun case.
The jury heard key testimony yesterday from Hallie Biden, the widow of Hunter's brother, Beau. Hunter had a relationship with Hallie after his brother's death. They were together during the time Hunter Biden purchased the gun that's at the center of this case.
We are joined now by NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian from outside the courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. We are also joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Savelos, who's here in studio with us. Good morning to both of you. Ken, I will start with you. So Hallie Biden spoke in detail about Hunter Biden's drug addiction as well as her own drug use. Tell us key moments in her testimony.
Good
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. That's right. Hallie Biden's testimony was dramatic. It was heartbreaking. It was sordid at times, and it must have been deeply painful for the Biden family. There were three big moments. First of all, she talked about the fact that Hunter Biden introduced her to crack cocaine, and she talked about how she was embarrassed and ashamed about that chapter in her life. And then she described the moment she found that handgun in his truck and panicked because her children were around that truck and decided that she needed to get rid of it. So she took it to a grocery store trash can and threw it away. And that resulted in this case, and because police were called and the gun was recovered. And then, most crucially, she talked about text message exchanges with Hunter Biden 1 day and 2 days after he purchased that gun, filled out a form that said he wasn't a drug user. And in those text messages, he talked about meeting a drug dealer named Mookie in Wilmington, Delaware, and using crack cocaine while lying on a car. So that's crucial evidence because it goes right to the heart of Hunter Biden's defense that he didn't knowingly lie on that form. And even if he did or didn't knowingly lie, it's illegal, and prosecutors only have to prove that he illegally purchased that gun and possessed that gun while he was using drugs, guys.
Danny, let's talk about the defense strategy here, trying to poke holes in her testimony. What was it the defense was trying to do?
Well, you take a step back, and this is an unusual case in that most drugs and guns cases, which I've handled a bunch, the prosecution doesn't normally put on evidence that the defendant is an addict because that's not really an element of the burden of proof. This is a rare crime where being an addict is an element. So Hallie Biden, in addition to being involved with actually disposing of the gun, she is a percipient witness. She observed Hunter Biden in the throes of drug addiction. But was it enough? The defense pointed out that her memory wasn't perfect. There were certain days that she wasn't aware whether or not he was on drugs for sure. So this is a really interesting prosecution from a legal perspective because it's about to what degree does the prosecution need to prove addiction in order to satisfy this rarely prosecuted subsection of 922, the basically the statute that says who cannot possess a firearm. And, of course, the false statements on the firearm application form, the 4473. This is both a false statements case and a possession case.
Ken, yesterday we also heard from the man who found Hunter Biden's gun in the trash where Hallie Biden disposed of it, as we were just referencing a moment ago. What did he have to say?
Edward Bannon is 80 years old. He's hard of hearing, so the prosecutor and the defense attorney had to stand right next to him to ask him questions, gave the jury some moments of levity, and described how he was looking for essentially recycled cans and bottles in the trash at this grocery store, and to his shock and surprise, found this handgun and took it home to his apartment. And what's remarkable about that is that if he hadn't found that gun and Hallie Biden had went back to the store as she did to retrieve it, we might not even be here because we may never have known that Hunter Biden bought a gun allegedly while using drugs. So it was a turn of fate, and it was interesting, and it showed that the prosecution is putting on all the evidence here, meticulously establishing all the facts in this case, surveillance video, testimony, and even the 80-year-old man who found the gun.
So, Ken, the defense will soon get its turn to present its case, and Hunter Biden's defense will have to decide whether to call their own chemist as an expert. What should we know about what they are trying to figure out here, Danny?
Oh, me,
you.
yes.
I meant for you.
You meant me, yes. First of all, Ken Delaney, great point about the amazing but-for causation moments in life. You know, one guy searching the trash can for recycling leads to this massive prosecution of such significance. It's really amazing. The defense, moving forward, the prosecution expected to arrest. The defense may call a couple witnesses. I don't expect they're going to call Hunter Biden. They don't really need him. If they can get whatever they need, and I expect they're going to put on evidence that on these particular days, maybe Hunter Biden was doing well. He was out of rehab. He was looking forward to a better life and feeling clean and sober. Because, again, this case is an awkward one. What is an addict? There is a federal statutory definition of addict, but what is an addict to all of us? Too often, the person that we all think is an addict is the last person that believes he himself is an addict. Any of you folks out there with personal experience with that know what I'm talking about. So this is a straight, although this is a prosecution that's brought under a statute that's prosecuted all the time, this particular addict or unlawful user part, a little difficult to prove.
Danny and Ken, thank you both very much.
A federal judge is now ordering former top Trump White House advisor Steve Bannon to report to prison within the next few weeks for defying congressional subpoenas. Bannon is set to start serving his 4-month prison sentence on July 1st after he was found guilty of 2 counts of contempt of Congress.
Bannon was convicted in July of 2022 and sentenced more than a year and a half ago for defying subpoenas from the January 6th House committee, citing executive privilege as his defense. Well, that sentence was put on hold while he went through the appeals process. Bannon can also still appeal this ruling from the judge that he must report to prison. You might remember this is the same sentence that is currently being served by another former aide to Mr. Trump. That's Peter Navarro.
We now know that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will address a joint session of Congress next month. He recently accepted an invitation sent by top leaders from both chambers and both parties.
That announcement came the same day as dozens of people, including women and children, were killed after an Israeli strike targeted a school in central Gaza that was being run by the UN Refugee Agency. Israeli Defense Forces said that Hamas militants were operating out of that compound.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Tel Aviv with the latest. So, Raf, these initial reports from health officials in Gaza said that more than 30 people died in this strike. What else are we learning?
So, Joe, hospital officials are telling us the final death toll is 40 people killed in total in that strike. And of those, more than half are women and children. Now, the Israeli military says it targeted that United Nations school in 3 very specific classrooms where it says that operatives from both Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad were hiding. They say some of those operatives directly took part in the October 7th terror attack. But we know that these UN schools have been a refuge for Palestinian families throughout this war. There were thousands of people seeking shelter there. And it is clear now that a large number of innocent people were killed in this strike. Now, the State Department yesterday saying that when you have 14 children killed by an Israeli intentional strike, then clearly something has gone wrong here. The IDF says that they twice delayed carrying out this bombing to minimize civilian casualties. They also say that they took reconnaissance flights over the school before they targeted it. But a leading Israeli human rights group called B'Tselem is saying that while it would be illegal, a violation of the rules of war, for Hamas to operate out of that school, that would not justify Israel carrying out an attack on a place where so many civilians were sheltering. And they are saying that this is a potential war crime. Guys.
Raf, let's talk about that invitation by Congress in July that Prime Minister Netanyahu has now accepted. Let's talk about the moment that this comes at for him to be coming here, addressing Congress. What kind of message do we expect when he does come?
So, Savannah, I think it's going to depend a lot on the reality on the ground in the Middle East when he arrives in Washington in mid-July. If it looks like what's happening now, where you have Israeli strikes on UN schools, where civilians are being killed in large numbers, I think he is going to get a pretty frosty reception from large portions of the Democratic Party who are very, very upset about the level of civilian casualties, very upset about the lack of progress towards a ceasefire. If by mid-July, late July, there is a ceasefire on the ground in Gaza, I think that takes a little bit of the domestic political tension out. And guys, you know, I almost hesitate to say this, but things are heating up between Israel and Hezbollah, the powerful Iranian-backed militant group in southern Lebanon. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said he is prepared to launch a military offensive into Lebanon to stop attacks from that country. And so if there is a full-blown war going on between Israel and Hezbollah by late July, you know, it would be a very different situation in a very different political context in which the Prime Minister would arrive in Washington. Guys.
Raf Sanchez. Raf, thank you so much.
Let's turn now to the extreme heat searing the country, bringing record high temperatures.
The intense heat continues today across the Southwest, with millions from California to Texas under heat advisories.
NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz joins us now from Phoenix with the latest on this heat wave. Liz, good morning. So Thursday was a record-setting day for Phoenix, with the city reaching 113 for the first time this year. What are they expecting today, and how are they coping with this?
Yeah. Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. It's rough. And I think the thing about that 113-degree day, yes, folks here are used to temperatures like that in the summer. It's just how early it's come. It is the hottest it has ever been this early in the year here in Phoenix. And we're seeing that in other cities nationwide as well. Las Vegas hit 111. That also broke a record for the hottest so early in the year. In fact, the excessive heat warning in effect here has come nearly a month earlier than it did last year. So there are cooling centers open here at recreation centers, senior centers, libraries for folks. There's one open 24/7. We're here at an active fire station right now where the fire department is taking on new tactics to try to deal with some of the heat-related emergencies that we see. In fact, a record 645 people died of heat-related emergencies last year just here in the Phoenix-Maricopa County area. And so every fire truck now in Phoenix is equipped with several bags of ice, just like this, for this new ice immersion tactic that they're using to try to deal with heat stroke patients. They're literally going to put people in these mobile ice immersion baths to just try to immediately cool their body temperature down before bringing them to the hospital. And the firefighters here were telling us that this is really the difference between life and death, and that their survivability, he said, quote, has gone through the roof after beginning to use this tactic here. In fact, guys, more people die from heat than any other weather-related event, guys.
We've been talking about this all week. It's great to see they have something that is making a difference. Liz, totally. The extreme heat has our wallets sweating too. I mean, something called the National Energy Assistance Directors Association predicts energy bills are going to rise 7.9% this summer. With this early heat wave, Americans are going to feel that pain soon, if not already, right?
Yeah, there's absolutely a financial toll for this extreme heat, especially last summer here in Phoenix. There were 31 days straight of 110-degree temps or higher, a record heat wave. And so people are blasting their AC. That is the only way they can really survive in their home. But their electricity costs are going through the roof. I interviewed a woman, a 30-year-old woman here, who talked about the financial toll that takes on her. She's budgeting year-round to try to prepare for this. Last summer, she said that she discovered with her and her dog, kind of through trial and error, that they could keep the thermostat in her home at 83 degrees, which is pretty sweltering still, but that was sort of what they could tolerate and manage. And so she would keep her thermostat at 83 in order to kind of keep her costs low. Here's what she told me. So what has it been like just with the massive heat wave that we saw last year coming into this year?
Basically, we were managing the heat last year because it was very expensive. And like, this is a tiny house. It's only 940 square feet, but it's still costing me on the high end $220 per month to cool it.
And now this woman actually said that to try to lower the cost this summer, she paid $4,000 to have her home retrofitted and insulated in a way to try to help keep the home cooler. So we'll see if that works, but still a pretty costly investment for her.
Oh my gosh, you hear 83 degrees. Wow, that's what she can tolerate. I mean, that's really saying something. Liz, of course, this heat also means wildfires. And we know fire crews were battling a fire already west of Flagstaff yesterday. What do we know about how that is going?
Yeah, so there is a brush fire west of Flagstaff right now. As of last check, it's about 1,000 acres, 0% contained right now. No evacuations, but people on alert for sure. And I think it does just speak, Savannah, to the fact that this dry weather and hot heat can raise the risk of fire concern. We've already seen several brush fires and grass fires break out here in Arizona and California just over the past few days. So that's certainly something that firefighters are watching as well, guys.
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you very much.
We know folks in the Southwest are asking any relief in sight. Let's check in with meteorologist Angie Lassman.
Hey, Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. The answer to that question, of course, is yes, but we've got to wait a little while. It's not going to be a big cool down by any means, but at least we'll get back to where we should be for this time of year. The big picture look, though, for today, basically hot from California to Florida. We've got 86 million people that are going to see these temperatures surge past 90 degrees today. As far as the triple digits, that's about 14 million people, and it's mostly confined to parts of the Southwest, stretching from Texas to California. You see some of those major cities of Las Vegas, Phoenix, Albuquerque in there. And these are the spots that we're going to watch to have the dangerous kind of conditions as we get through our peak heating of the day. So later this afternoon, the heat stroke, the heat exhaustion, that's all going to be possible once again today. Hence the reason for those heat warnings that are still in effect, again, for places like Phoenix and Las Vegas, as well as Fresno. But those heat advisories as well, telling people to take it a little slower and find those cool spots through the afternoon hours. Here's where we're going as far as our high temperatures today. Not quite as many records possible, but still impressive numbers nonetheless for this time of year. We've got Las Vegas set to tie a record of 109 this afternoon. Winslow expected to hit 102. That would be a record for this date. Notice Albuquerque close to the triple digits, not quite making it there, but still uncomfortable nonetheless. We've got Tucson headed to 107. So warm temperatures for sure over the next day or so. But look what happens by the time we get into the weekend and beyond, really. These temperatures still into the triple digits, of course, but it is Las Vegas in June after all. So 103, not comfortable, but it's still a little closer to where we should be for this time of year, usually into those low 100s or high 90s for that region at this point of the year. Phoenix, similar story. We'll get back to about 105 by the time next week rolls around, and Sacramento will hang out into the 90s this weekend. Big picture look across the country. We've got a couple of things to watch. Today, we're going to be watching some of those stronger storms centered across parts of the center of the country, the Central Plains specifically. And by tomorrow, we'll see some unsettled conditions for parts of the Great Lakes, a little bit of rain working through for folks there. Maybe a few of those thunderstorms becoming strong across, again, the midsection of the country. But it'll be the heat and humidity that really gets your attention, especially across parts of the Gulf Coast. We'll see temperatures into the 90s, so it doesn't look quite as impressive with our highs not reaching the triple digits like the Southwest guys. But we know the humidity, it is oppressive for folks there, and that means it'll feel like the triple digits. So record-breaking heat now transitions to folks across the South.
All right. Thanks, Angie.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.